Hi BookTube, I'm here with a currently reading. I'm doing these weekly because I'm trying to read a lot this month. I kind of hit a reading slump earlier this week, so I didn't read as much as the week before, but I have finished some stuff. I am currently in the middle of stuff. I have plans for next week. I have Goodreads up on my phone. Yeah, I'm just using Goodreads because it has an app. That's, you know, just what I'm using right now. So yeah, that's just it. I want to use Storygraph, but until it gets an app and does this easy tracking thing, yeah. Let's do this. Okay, so where did we last start off? Finish. Did I talk about? I think I talked about the Jaguar Smile by Salman Rushdie, which is him going to Nicaragua in the 1980s and talking about the revolution and the counter-revolution and then the counter-revolution that was going on at the time, with mostly talking about the Sandinistas and the Somosas, and it's very much an outsider perspective, and he acknowledges that, like, this is him, you know, looking at it from the outside, and talking to different intellectuals and people at the time. It's cool because he gets to talk with Gioconda Belli, and I got one of her books on my shelves that I'm really excited to read. So it was really cool, like, hearing these authors that I wanted to read. Yeah, so I finished that. Yeah, I felt that I was hesitant going into it because it's not an own voices, but he didn't present it as him being knowledgeable about Nicaragua. It was him learning about Nicaragua. So I thought that was cool. Then I listened to a beautiful book, and I highly suggest you listen to this book, and it's called At the Bottom of the River by Jamaica Kincaid, and it's just a series of short stories, but like really short stories, and it's hard to categorize them. There's this one that really stands out in my mind, called The Mother, and it's about this person of indeterminate sex. I would say it's female because of the connection, not just the connection, but the imagery in the book. So kind of like the child reflects the mother, so and as they grow up it does that, so I think it's a female, but it remains ungendered. And it's weird, like apparently they get really super tall and the daughter's trying to kill the mother. It's just like, why? And then they like have like weird tentacles, and it was just so absurd, and I was so confused through part of it, but it was so beautiful, and I was just like, okay. Like, maybe I'd probably understand it better if I had read it, but I don't think I would. I really enjoyed reading it. The person's voice was amazing. And my battery just started flashing at me, so I'm gonna stop here and change my battery. Okay, so I was talking about At the Bottom of the River by Jamaica Kincaid. There's another story that stood out. Well, At the Bottom of the River itself is a story about the end of life, and grief, and you know, losing other people and losing yourself. That was really good too, and really interesting contemplation on it. Another story I think was called What I Am Doing, and it's kind of like this very circular story about like this person lying in bed, and then someone asks them what they're doing, and it ends up like right back at the beginning. And I just like, I wasn't expecting these really weird, twisty, you know, stories from this. I don't know what I was expecting. I was expecting kind of slice of life, I guess, but I didn't read the directions or I didn't read the summary of the book. I just kind of went off the fact that it was by Jamaica Kincaid, and I was like, I've been wanting to read her stuff, so yeah, I did. And then after that, I moved on to Tales of Fosterganj by Ruskin Bond, and Ruskin Bond is English Indian, so he's of English ancestry, but he was born and raised in India. And he did go to England for a little while and then came back and as an adult is living in India. That's where he says he belongs. And this story, I thought it was true. And then I was like, how is he meeting all these characters? I thought it was about him going to this small Indian village called Fosterganj, and meeting all these weird, fascinating, lovable people, even though like there's some undertones of like immorality almost, of like these are not necessarily good people, but they're likable anyways. Yeah, but it's all made up, it's all fake, but it felt real. Yeah. So it's they're all interlinked. It's more just like a slice of life, as I said, as opposed to like these separate stories. There's some stories that get really creepy, but there's also this sense of levity throughout it as well. Yeah, I don't want to spoil it. I think definitely read this. It's very short. I think it's only like 3 hours long on audiobook, and it was just, I was laughing my head off throughout all of it. It was really great. Yeah, and shout outs to the audiobook narrator for the accents, because he had to do like the Anglo-Indian accent, he had to do a Scottish accent, he had to do Indian accents. Like, it was pretty cool. It was really good. And then a book that wasn't on my TBR, but that I had ordered, I thought was short, and it kind of hit a lot of boxes for me, and so I decided to just pick it up there. It's called The Labyrinth Archivist by Day Al Mohamed, and that is really good. It's this world, we don't get to explore the world yet. This is like book 1 in a series, but the world is like a labyrinth, and at the center of it is the archive, which is different explorers from all these different worlds. So you go off in the labyrinth and you find all these worlds. They come back to the archive and they tell their story to the archivist, who writes it down and, you know, tells about their explorations and what they find there and all that stuff. And we follow this girl who's trying to be an archivist. I say she's a girl, but I believe she'd be actually somewhere in her 20s, so I should be saying woman. Sorry. So she's blind, so we have that kind of problem there, because she can't write down their story, she can't draw the maps, right? So she gets her cousin to help her, because her cousin can't speak the different languages, and there's all these different alien species, and they're so cool. There's like this bird person, this kind of, I kind of pictured them as like Skyther, probably totally wrong, but Skyther from Pokemon, but like talking and stuff like that. Like insectoid people and stuff like that. And her mother is the head archivist, and her grandmother was kind of like well respected, and her grandmother is killed, and it's her trying to solve the murder of her grandmother's, or trying to solve the murder of her grandmother. So it's really, really good. I'm really looking forward to other books coming out in that series. So she's disabled, she's a lesbian, and she's brown. So like you get a lot of representation there, and its own voices as well, so it's pretty cool. Then I read On/Me by Francine Cunningham, which is amazing. It's a lot of poetry. Oh, it's all poetry. It's a book of poetry by a white passing urban indigenous woman, and talking a lot about her identity, because if you look at someone who's white passing, there's so many issues with regards to that, such as, you know, do you speak up when someone's racist against like the group that you're in, or do you come out and say, no, like, you know, I'm indigenous, or, you know, or do you stay quiet and just kind of hope that everything goes away? And then there's the questions of, I'm too white for indigenous people, or I'm too indigenous for white people. She talks about being in the hospital, and she's the only white passing person in her family, and she's just like, they're treating brown people so differently, you know, like indigenous people who are darker, so differently from her. And she's just like witnessing this, and it's really quite interesting, the perspective she brings. And it's also really, sorry, it's really touching, because she goes through a lot of grief after her mother dies, and she's dealing with a lot of mental health issues. And so like it's so touching, and so easy to understand. Yeah, I really liked that poetry. Do I have it? I have it right here. Let me just like read one. Oh, I can't really read this one. On mental illness, anxiety. I don't know if that will come into focus there, but like, yeah, that's one of them. Oh, on grief. My mother never had a chance to be white passing. She was always known by the brown in her skin, the Cree in her features, what strangers thought she was. Never known for the unseen qualities, the details. Her faith, her garden, lush in summer, her laughter that burst through spaces. What was seen was beyond her control. People's perceptions, what they thought they knew. Yeah, I could go on reading more. Oh, bipolar, this disease is the eater of dreams, of life that could be lived. It locks you away in your bedroom, cut opens your skin, causes lightning in your brain, steals sleeps and dreams. What's another one? Sorry, I just want to read some more from this. Things could be better, but sometimes it's nice to think about the good too. Oh, sitting in awkward silence of deciding whether or not to point out that what a colleague said was incredibly racist. Said to my face as if I'm a co-conspirator because my skin color matches theirs. Just like, it's amazing. I loved some of the things she was writing. Oh, this whole poem here about signposts. It's really long, otherwise I wish I could read it. And she was sexually assaulted as well, and she writes a poem about that. Just like, this was really good. Then I read Tintin and the Broken Ear by Herge, and it's definitely dated. There's one point where he's in full-on blackface with like the red lips and everything, and I was just like, I recognize, like, it wasn't obviously him, and I was like, that's Tintin, I think they did blackface. Oh my god. And it's already this problematic story because they're talking about this fetish, not sexual fetish, but like the figure from South America, and they portray them as cannibals, and I'm just like, okay, I'm like, this is 1960s Tintin, just like, read it. It's a Tintin book. Yeah. And then I read a book that really made me angry, and you know what, I don't want to review this book in like a separate video. I might, but just, so I work in home health care. Majority of the, well, no, not even the majority right now, but the majority of patients generally are people with dementia, Alzheimer's, and we work with families to provide care to keep the person in their home as long as possible, and that is the best thing to do. And this book, especially if you're in Ontario and you know about long-term cares, we have been, like, personally, I could have told you about this stuff like 10, 15 years ago when I was working in the long-term care, that how horrible it is, how you start getting people up at 3 in the morning because you're understaffed and you don't have time to get everyone up and give them the care they need. You have 15 minutes with each person, if that, to get them up, washed, dressed, out of bed, and into the dining room. And it's just like, it's ridiculous. People are suffering, people aren't getting changed, there's no stimulation, there's nothing. It's horrible. And it's all over the world, these places. I don't care if you're in America or Korea or the Netherlands, or in this case in France. If you love your family members, if you like your family members, if you can tolerate your family members, no one deserves to be put into long-term care. No one deserves that. It is horrible. This is Annie Ernaux' Irene of Darkness, and I was like, oh, it's a beautiful story about a mother-daughter relationship. She put her mother in a long-term care home, went to go visit her, saw how horrible it was. She was in a situation where she could have had her mother at home and been taking care of her. It doesn't actually, like, oh my god, I was just like, I'm so frustrated with this and how horrible her mother was treated, and she still just went and was trying to justify it. She's like, I have to think about myself. I have to think about myself instead of my mother. I have to take care of me instead of my mother. She's in this horrible situation. She's declining and she can't see and she can't eat because she lost her teeth, and I don't care. And I was just like, how can anyone look at this person, and this is like a true story, and think that she's a good person? She put her mother in this situation where her mother was guaranteed to die within 2 years of being put in that long-term care home. She went in there, she saw, she smelt, she felt the urine and the feces on the floor, and she still decided to put her mother through that. The only time you should do that to the parent is if they were abusive and horrible people. That's it. And even that's, you know, like, you shouldn't do that to someone. You should not do that to someone. It's just, it's horrible. It needs to change. It's made me very, 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 very angry. Very, 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 very angry. Like, I understand. No, I don't understand. There's no freaking justification for doing that to someone. You know, like, you can leave, I'm sorry, but you can. You can leave someone with Alzheimer's alone for quite a long time. Lock the doors, turn on the TV, and turn off the flip to the gas, to the oven and all that stuff so they don't burn the house down, and they'll be okay. You know, like, you don't need to be there 24 hours a day. Ideally, yes, you need to spend as much time as you can, but, like, understand if you want to leave someone with Alzheimer's at home alone while you go off to work or while you go off and do groceries, there's alternatives. You know, like, there's care that will come into the home and help you. Like, okay. Rant over. I totally wish I hadn't read that book. It was only 50 pages on my e-reader, and I thought, oh, she'll take her home, she'll take her home, she'll take her home. But no, this woman was so wrapped up in her own freaking head and being me and fulfilling me. And I'm just like, your mother gave birth to you. Your mother spent, you know, at least 18 years raising you. And you're going to do this to her. You can't give up 2 years of your life to take care of her and have her be, you know, be able to see and eat and not sitting in poop and pee all day. Like, just... Sorry. I gotta calm down. Okay. Editing Courtney here. I'm not gonna apologize for that rant at all. I'm just gonna actually add on to it here. I just want to point out that she also profited from the story. Like, she sold her mother's story and, like, had no problem with showing how horrible of a person she was and wrote a book about it and then sent it to a publisher and then, like, profited off of her own horribleness. That's all I could... That's it. I'm done. I'm never reading another book by this person ever. So those are the books I finished. Now what I'm currently reading. I picked up How to Be Sick by Toni Bernhard. It's subtitled A Buddhist-Inspired Guide for the Chronically Ill and Their Caregivers. So yeah, I picked this book up because of many reasons. It wasn't on my TBR, but I came across it online and I was like, oh, I think I have to read this book. Because as I said, I work in home health care. I deal with people with a wide range of chronic illnesses. And my own family members immediate family members deal with chronic illnesses. So I thought this would be an interesting read, maybe come up with some different approaches and stuff like that. So yeah, it's like I'm reading a professional development book. It's something I don't normally do, but it intrigued me enough to want me to pick it up. I'm almost done. I'm like, yeah, 30 pages from the end of this. Weep Not Child by, where's his full name? Ngugi wa Thiong'o. And this takes place in Kenya. And I don't know enough about the history about Kenya, but there's a uprising. So there's a lot of white settlers in Kenya at this time that the book takes place. And they there's a lot of different race relations. There's also like Indian people from India there. And it's dealing with race, and there's this uprising called the Mau Mau uprising, where the black people finally go like, listen, this is our land, and you just kind of took it from us, and we've done things for you. We fought in World War I and World War II for you, and we've died for, you know, these countries that we wouldn't have heard of if you hadn't been here, kind of thing. And it's about a young boy, and we get other perspectives from his family, but we mostly concentrate on him kind of growing up during all this time. Yeah, it's really good. We got lots of tabs here. Let's read a recent tab here. The last thing I tabbed. Oh, okay. So this is talking about his brother who went off with another brother. That brother died during World War II. And this brother is now fighting in the uprising. And he says, okay, if he killed a single white man, he was exacting a vengeance for a brother killed. And freedom, the lieutenant continued, an illusion. What freedom is there for you and me? Why then do you fight? To kill. Unless you kill, you'll be killed. So you go on killing and destroying. It's a law of nature. The white man too fights and kills with gas, bombs, and everything. But don't you think there's something wrong in fighting and killing unless you're doing so for a great cause like ours? What great cause is ours? Why, freedom and the return of lost heritage. Maybe there's something in that, but for me, freedom is meaningless unless it can bring back a brother I lost. Because it can't do that, the only thing left to me is to fight, to kill, and rejoice at any who falls under my sword. But enough. Chief Jacobo must die. And just like, obviously dealing with some PTSD there. Another thing that's interesting is that this person, I think they only read half the book because their notes stop, but they're making notes on the role of woman throughout the book, which I thought was interesting and brings a different perspective there. And lastly, I honestly don't know if I'm going to continue this book. This is a reread for me. And the reason is not because I'm not enjoying it, but because it's a very realistic dystopian. So How I Live Now is about a girl named Daisy who's sent over to England to live with her family, and then like quite literally like the world is ending. There's no power, there's electricity, people are being separated, there's something going on, but it's not like, you know, I have the power and I have to fight against them like those typical dystopians. It's kind of very realistic. She's like, I just want to find my family and like go off and live in the country. Can we do that, please? And yeah, I call it one of my favorite books, but right now, with Ontario, you know, being the way it is, I don't want to read about realistic dystopians. So I might put this down and pick up something else, but I'm not entirely sure. What I'll be reading for the rest of the week, and I've already been talking for 20 minutes, so I'll stop there, and I'm just looking at my TBR over there and thinking, I think I'm going to read next There Exists an X. X is a sandwich, which is a philosophy. Let's just put it in simple terms there. Yeah, so let me know what you're currently reading, and thank you for watching.